6 minutes, 40 seconds, 20 slides, each slide changing on a 20-second increment. This is the challenge of a presentation format called pecha Kucha. It was started in Japan with the goal of shortening what were becoming very long presentations. The Creative Global Economy Convergence Summit in Philadelphia in 2009 asked me to make this presentation in that format. My name is Bill Milnazik. I own and operate Axis Visual, a graphic marketing firm outside of Philadelphia. In my years in the industry, I've worked with many different types of clients, large, small, different business types and personality types. Generally, what I found is that most client relationships start out with them asking to push the envelope or something along those lines. And then I found out that some clients embrace creativity and really did want to do that, whereas others seem to be almost afraid of doing something different. And maybe their version of creativity was making black type blue. But let me back up a second here. Everybody has things that they like and things that they don't like, things they gravitate towards and things they move away from. It may be a function of childhood upbringing or exposure or area of interest or any number of things. But we all have our, I guess, what are simply referred to as tastes. Now, this may be very simple. Is there any risk to that when you're dealing with a personal taste? The only risk I can think of maybe is being bored by doing the same thing time and time again. But when you apply creativity to the marketing of a business, some additional things come into play. You have to look at how this is applying to your business, on a much greater scale. The question arises: is it personal or is it business? Every company has a face that it puts forward, whether it realizes it or not. It may be, hopefully, a conscious choice. Sometimes, maybe not. That face may be educational, maybe comical, maybe serious, any number of things, but they always put a face forward. And in the best of worlds, it's based on their branding strategy. To build that face, creativity has to come into play. That's the visual or, in some ways, in some cases, audible delivery of a client's face. It's similar to a Salesforce or a database or a marketing process that makes it more efficient. It's a tool that makes a company better. As I said, individuals have a creative risk tolerance that range from conservative to creative. Could be anywhere along that line. So do businesses, and so do customers. They each have areas that they feel comfortable. Now, on a business level, it may be a cumulative decision from a number of people. Your competition also has its creative risk tolerance. Note the sharp teeth coming up on you in a rearview mirror here. Competitors tend to do that. Excuse me a second while I get into a little bit of a Ross Perot geeky chart thing here. When you're talking about marketing a company, everybody wants high results. Not a surprise here. Otherwise, why do it? Everybody wants to be essentially in the front end of this chart. But what happens when you bring in some additional elements like cost and creative risk? It makes things a little bit more complicated, and we can look at different companies and how they respond. Large companies that practice more of a defensive strategy tend to be higher cost and lower creative risk. That's largely a function that they have because they have a large existing base that they're trying to protect, and their cost comes from a large volume of messages that they're putting out. Smaller companies, or companies that practice more of an offensive strategy, normally don't have the budget to put the volume of message out to get sales up that way. So they have to stand out amongst this rising tide of marketing information that we're seeing. So they have to push the creative risk to get people's attention. So a question comes to mind. More creativity is always better, right? Not necessarily. There are cases where companies have gone too far over the top. And just sort of lost touch with their client base, with their audience, and maybe being a little too clever. Can you take too creative a risk in marketing? Yes, you can. Each company has what's referred to as a sweet spot for it, and maybe a company shifts more towards conservative or more towards creative, but there's a sweet spot where the best results of marketing occur. However, very few companies that, in my observation, have erred on the too creative side. It does happen, just not often. The other side of the coin is when you're putting a message out there, you have to look at how you're being shown with your competition. Everybody out there is doing something, and if you do something similar, you will be seen as what I refer to as just a me too. So how do you stand out? How do you make yourself look different? How do you get noticed? And when you're stepping into that arena, how do you know where you're starting from? I mean, if we have a creative risk tolerance that we need to push, where are we starting from? And that's probably the biggest challenge that a lot of people have. Creativity is a very subjective commodity, and it's hard to know where we start. And it's something that can be achieved. And I'll give you a couple of quick hints here and quick ideas on how to approach it. Some of the things that you can do, there are basically three really simple things. First, look at everything. Look at type and colors and advertising and your competitors and people that aren't your competitors. Look at everything. Discuss with your marketing team. Maybe you have a trusted creative firm that you work with. Talk to them. Lastly, play with ideas. Play with the what-if style of marketing. A very good friend and really respected photographer that I work with, by the name of Steve Sharp, he referred to his business as visual therapy. I kind of think that title fits better to the marketing and design and branding world. We have to get in there and analyze everything to make more effective marketing for a company. So now that we're about maybe 6 minutes into this presentation, it may sound like I'm asking you to sit around and just simply contemplate your marketing navel. In a way I am. I think it's important to really understand where you are, where you're going, where you relate, and where all the other factions relate to make effective marketing. That said, this presentation comes to a conclusion, and it was short, fast, hopefully a little bit entertaining, and if I can be of any service, look me up. Thank you.